It's Thursday here, BraveNewCoin. Time to look at some legacy charts. Going to start with the usual correlations, just as a good baseline to see how things are stacking up against legacy markets. The VIX has continued to slightly decline, which is good for crypto, bullish for crypto. We still need to break below that 18 to 20 level to really have a risk-on environment. Dixie's been up today. We'll talk about that. Gold down pretty big today. Nikkei continues to run north, and SPX and NDX both continue to just march upwards with the plunge protection team stepping in anytime there's a minor dip. The DXY, again, this is certainly problematic for my bullish Q4 thesis for crypto, because historically, if Dixie is bullish, crypto is not bullish, despite all the fundamental reasons why Dixie should not be bullish. Here we are with the technicals painting a pretty convincing inverted head and shoulders setup, along with a bullish TK cross here in the next couple weeks on the cloud, which is a short close signal if it occurs below the cloud. You also have a flat Kumo level at 96, and you have the measured move of the chart pattern from 96 to 98. So I hope this doesn't play out. Obviously going to continue to watch it, and if this is bullish, it's unlikely that we have an explosive Q4. And we can look at past previous correlations. When crypto was bullish, we do have some bullish correlation with Dixie, but for the most part, this thing has trended inverse to DXY. Gold, like I said, had a big down day, potentially painting an inverted head and shoulders here over the next week. In general, this thing's just a giant mess of a trend. Nothing real serious happening here trend-wise. And the correlation there with BTC in this panel here has just mainly been all over the place. It hasn't really held high correlations or low correlations for an extended period of time other than 2013, 2014. So you can't really say, if gold is risk off, crypto's risk off. Not really. That's not how it's stacked up. Silver pretty much broke the setup that I had been watching and hoping would play out. I'm still holding my silver position because why not? It is getting a weekly bearish TK cross, which is telling you it's definitely done as far as any uptrend is concerned in the near term. And you'd be waiting for a bullish TK recross above the cloud for any additional long entries or adds to positions here. At this point, it probably goes to 21.25 or whatever this is on the cloud. Legacy markets operate extremely slowly relative to crypto, hence why I'm looking at the weekly here. I mean, this thing was in a range for 8 years before it broke out. So just keep that in mind if you're watching this legacy stuff. Nikkei broke out of that falling channel over the past couple weeks. Looks good. Looks very reminiscent of UUU, Quad U, whatever people call this thing. Had some sort of nonsensical nothing really at the top. I guess a W, and then exploded. A lot of energy stuff lately. If anything, this inverted head and shoulders at the bottom was beautiful. Not only was it a chart pattern, but it was also a pretty clean cloud breakup as well. This is like the golden setup whenever you get chart patterns with cloud breakouts. On higher time frames, this is even more obvious. On the weekly, for example, you'd see a pretty clean head and shoulders plus cloud breakout. So this thing still looks good. Energy stuff is happening all over the world in a not so good way. So I expect that to continue to do well. SPX, I mean, what are you going to say? It's still being held up just barely at the 50 EMA on the daily, but ultimately this thing will retest the 200 eventually. Not unsure when, but still hanging on by a thread here at 44.72. NDX looks a little bit better, but it also has not touched the 200-day moving average since Corona March 2020. So when reality sets in and the money printer burring stops or slows down, this thing will probably also retest the 200. If those both drop, that is not bullish for crypto. That signifies risk off, scary scenes type of situations for investors. GME still looks fine to me. Again, this is in fantasy land. Makes no sense why it's up here still. But on trend, if this thing breaks above the 4-hour cloud, looks pretty good for bullish continuation, potentially on trend. And if this thing breaks 320, it could go to 5, honestly, based on the measured moves of the range. AMC almost more bullish than GME here, which again makes no sense to me. They announced today that they're taking a bunch of crypto for concessions and tickets, I assume. But on trend, this thing looks like it's ready for another leg up. Looks really good to me for bullish continuation here into Q4. And speaking of meme stonkery, Doge BTC does not look good. It looks like it's on its last legs of nullifying this potential mess of an inverted head and shoulders. It would need to get above 600 sats, 650 really, to take this pattern seriously. This is more just a wait and see watch situation. But if the meme stonks explode, I expect Doge to follow with it. Anybody trading that stuff is also very likely trading Doge. As far as buying knives on this, I wouldn't touch this until it's back to at least somewhere near 100 sats. And on the USD pair, it looks equally bad. It has to bounce here at the 200-day moving average. The cloud is already telling you, be careful, this is a bearish Kumo breakout. It had an edge-to-edge attempt, that's failed. It's going to have a 5200 death cross if this continues to drift lower. And you've got all these people at above 25 cents who are trapped here. If this thing makes lower lows, they're going to start to panic and capitulate 100%, especially because the people that brought it here, at least many of them are retail. At the very least, the people still left who have not exited their positions are probably retail, hoping for Doge to $1 meme or something, which if GME and AMC move up in a big way, sure, Doge will go with it. But where this sits right now today on trend does not look good at all, especially relative to everything else in crypto, which looks decently okay. Robinhood, speaking of bearishness, continues to just, it looks like Zcash, honestly. I tried to put a pitchfork on this. There isn't really one. It's more of a like slow death curve. I would watch the hourly cloud. If this thing pulls above the hourly cloud, then I like it for a long. But if the SEC or whoever is going after them for payment for order flow, whatever you want to call that, they're probably at risk of regulatory shenanigans messing with the chart here. It's probably causing some uncertainty amongst people. And you're just seeing natural selling take place after the initial IPO euphoria. So I still think this is fine to watch. Anything above 45 looks good to me. Coin is just a mess of a sideways nonsense. Again, regulatory risk here. You could probably argue M double top, inverted cup and handle. I don't know. This doesn't look bullish by any means. You definitely don't want to see this thing break 225. Just a nothing mess here. Not much going on the chart there. MSTR continues to sort of drift lower after this head and shoulders breakdown, kind of in the range though at 620. So just a giant range that this thing's in from 4 to 8. If crypto's bullish in Q4, this thing's gonna bust through 8 pretty easily. But as it sits right now, it looks like coin, just a mess of a nothingness, really. I mean, you could probably argue bearish flag here, but I don't see anything tradable here on higher time frames anyway. The GBTC and ETH discounts have been holding kind of where they were over the past few weeks. Nothing plus or minus in a big way. We have so many Bitcoin ETF proposals pending that are probably all going to get delayed. Some of which are based on the future, some of which are based on the spot. Eventually, some of these are going to go through, and it's probably not going to be just one. It's probably going to be multiple. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Certainly not by the end of the year, I wouldn't think. Now, if this goes increasingly negative, then potentially you're seeing the ETF stuff being priced in. And that's assuming this doesn't convert to an ETF. If people think this will convert to an ETF, I think this goes back to parity with spot. But if people think other ETFs are coming, this will probably go increasingly negative. I don't know why LTC is positive at all. And ETC even pulled up a little bit here from negative 35+% to negative 29%. So I still watch these on the periphery. I don't think there's anything tradable here. Just it's like a betting market for the ETF stuff pending potentially. CME futures has a rollover next week, so we may see some increased volatility towards next Friday. And again, this I mentioned this last video, I think, but this December 2019 contract, nobody really trades these on a higher time frame scale. Most of the volume is the front contract rolling. But if anybody was holding this on leverage from 2019, they've made an absolute killing being down here in this trade from sub 8K to the current price. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Takemi Capital on Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC, or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM, performance, allocations. You can see all the yield plays I'm in here on Comp, Aave, and Yearn, as well as all the trades I make in the Trades tab down below. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.